In this presentation today, we're going to look at the end of financial year using GovReports. What we'll be looking today at is the ATO reconciliations and how we can use some of the functions in GovReports to complete those. We're going to look then at STP finalisation within GovReports and how we can be using that area. We'll then move on to our client review, where we're going to look at engagement letters and archiving and some general tidy up matters, as well as non-lodgement advice. So without further ado, let's go into the GovReports program itself. Some of you may already be familiar with GovReports, so when you first go in, you're brought into the bird's eye view, which gives you a big dashboard snapshot of things that are happening. On the left hand side, you can navigate through the different functionalities. You have My Practice, My Lodgements, and My Clients. We're going to take a look firstly at ATO reconciliations, specifically at the activity statement summary as well as the ATO integrated client account. So within the My Lodgements area, you'll find the activity statement summary as well as the BAS historic lodgement. We're going to click on the activity statement summary and we're going to select a client. So this comes in very useful when you are going through and you are doing a reconciliation of your lodgements that you've done up to the third quarter, and you're doing the final lodgement for the year, and you want to make sure that everything's been picked up, there's been no changes that haven't been picked up and missed, and this way you can reconcile as to what has already been lodged as to opposed to what is the whole GST or BAS lodgement for the year, and then you can be comfortable in that what you lodge in this final quarter will be correct. So you can see here that it breaks it down quite easily, showing you the G1, 2, 3, all the different fields and how much has been done year to date. So this is just an older sort of version, so it's a sample file, so it doesn't necessarily have a whole lot of detail, but you can see that you can also choose year upon year, so you can take a look at the different years. Now we can work with that in conjunction with reconciling our ATO integrated client account at the end of the year, picking up any interest charges, making sure that it reconciles back to what we have in the books of the business. So we do that by going into our client, selecting our client, and then from within our client, under the ATO services drop-down menu, we can choose ATO accounts. By synchronizing the account, it actually extracts the information from the ATO portal, and therefore you don't have to log into the agent portal to actually download the integrated client account. From there, it's simply a matter of doing your normal reconciliation process. Let's move on and look at STP finalisation. We can use the STP finalisation in GovReports a number of ways. We can do it for a normal finalisation and lodgement, or we could do it for lodgement for those closely held employees that don't necessarily get recorded in a payroll system. It might be a once a year entry that's being done to record their wages, PAYG, super, etc. And we also can then send it off for digital signature. So the way we're going to do this is from within this same client, we're going to go up into the forms area, and in here we can find the STP payroll events which we can select. Once we've selected this, you'll see the ability to actually have pre-filled information in there, and then you'll have the start date for the specific pay period that you are doing, and it can say whether it's an update event or a pay event, and whether or not we're migrating from other software. And in here we can put in the amounts, but we also want to make sure that we bring in the employee details, and we can do that by actually manually entering the information or importing from a software that may not have the functionality to lodge the STP, or roll over from a previous lodgement and the information will flow through, which you can then update. You'll also see a declaration down here, and you can send it off to validate and send it off for signature to the client. If we take a very quick look at the manual entry screen, you'll see here you have the individual's names, all the different categories and commencement dates, and the final event indicator to indicate that it is a final event. Now, something that it's important to remember is that if you are importing from software where they've had software in another version previously, they have a BMS ID, they've been using a different software, it's really important that you use that same BMS ID, otherwise it could result in duplications. It's also important that you use the same payroll ID number. Now, if you don't use the same payroll ID number, you will need to finalise both payrolls, not just the one payroll. So it's important to remember that for our STP finalisation. So the next thing we're going to look at here is we've sent this off, everything's happening now, but once a year we need to go through and set up the digital authentication letters. Repeat that, not the digital authentication, but our lodgement authority documents that allows us to lodge the STP on the client's behalf. And we do that by a number of ways. We can create a document in here that we can send out, or we can use a template such as the one that the ICB has provided in the past and use our digital authentication area from the apps at the top right, click on the digital authorization and bring in a document by clicking on New Document to send it. I'm going to upload my document from the desktop, and there it is. Complete the details of what has to be done with a brief message. Follow the prompts to send it off, mark it for signature. So now that I've done that brief message, I go to my next page and the document will upload. All I now need to do is locate the area and mark it for signature and the date before sending it to the client. By doing this, I have all my authority letters within the one location in GovReports that I can locate at any given time. Moving on to the next area, once we've done our STP lodgement, I'm going to come out of here and we're going to look at our client review. So at this we may have a look at some of the clients we have on file. Some may no longer be our clients and we want to make them inactive. And so in here we can go into the client, and within the client on the hamburger sort of bar, we can modify the client's status and change them to archive, which will remove those clients that are no longer ours. We don't need to have them there displayed if they're not our clients anymore. We can also in here remove clients from the ATO portal. The other thing we can utilise in this area is once a year we might want to review the engagement letters. And we do that in the My Practice area on the left hand side in the navigation area, in the templates and letters, where we can actually use an existing template and view them. And in here we can use ones we may have already set up, or we can add a new template. If I go to create a new one, you'll see that I have the ability to set the information up and customize the letter as I may see fit. To make sure that it complies, it has all the information that needs to be in there for that engagement letter to protect both the interests of yourself and your client. The final thing I want to talk about with the clients is the fact that we can also set up for each of our clients the ability to go through and set up outstanding reports so that they automatically extract from the ATO. By ticking the ATO forms and updating it, you'll find that on the left-hand side under My Lodgements, you'll find an Outstanding Reports area which will automatically update every time a new form comes through for that client. So you don't have to remember each client and their forms, it's automated there for you. The final thing we want to touch on is the non-lodgement advice. Going into our client, we have the ability for BAS agents to do a non-lodgement advice for TPAR if there is no TPAR to be lodged for that year, and for tax agents they can do it for the various tax reporting. So going into that client, you'll find in here, in the drop down, in the ATO services, the non-lodgement advice. In here it will allow you then to complete this non-lodgement advice for the particular form for that particular client. That brings us to the end of our session today. I hope they've been useful points for you for end of financial year with GovReports.